What's going on, everybody? This is the blockchain backer, bringing you the latest cryptocurrency news and analysis. Today, we're going to be taking a very big, broad look at markets and what's going on with the Bitcoin price chart, what's going on with the altcoin market. We're going to take a peek over there at the stock market, the dollar, a lot of different things after we had such a wild week last week here in crypto and in stocks and really everywhere. Because after such a hectic week, everybody's wanting the pain to stop, including me. But yesterday I posted a thread over here on Twitter, and we'll kind of go through this really quick, and then we're going to dive into all of these charts really closely to talk about these different things and how there's such a mixed picture out there in the markets. So yesterday afternoon, I had posted, as we get ready to start the new week, it doesn't really appear we've seen some grand reversal in cryptos yet. Stock market futures will open in a few hours. After the intense week we had last week, let's look at a few things going on in crypto and macro. Well, to update that really quick, we can see that stock futures, or the Dow Jones Industrial Average, is up 28 points. Right now, the market's open in about 47 minutes from me recording at this moment. I'm certain they will open before we're done with this recording, but so far, nothing crazy. But on Monday of last week, the Dow Jones Industrial Average broke below its most recent support, invalidating an ABC correction. What do you know? Cryptos go with it. On Friday, the Dow Jones Industrial Average had a recovery, but it was back to the broken support level, unable to reclaim it. And so, as I had mentioned, for 2 or 3 weeks, I was pretty much watching the Dow Jones on the 1-minute chart, sniffing out that something wasn't sitting right over here with the Dow Jones Industrial Average. On Monday, we did peak below that level, and then chaos ensued in the markets. And we can see that on Friday, as we got a bounce in crypto, as we got a bounce in stocks, where did it bounce back to? It bounced back to that broken support level. So as we start this week right now, we have not reclaimed that level. We have merely bounced back to it. And the question is it roll over from here or does it get back above? But we were not able to reclaim it last week. Meanwhile, the DXY got into 20-year highs last week. At the same time, the euro was testing its 5-year lows versus the dollar. The euro is a major component of the US dollar currency index, which is the DXY, and historically has been acting inversely to the DXY, which we can see here on the top. I have the US dollar currency index down here on the bottom. I have the euro. The euro is one of the major components of the DXY. So the DXY is a measure of the value of the US dollar versus a basket of 6 different currencies, with the euro being one of the major components. And we've compared this versus the bottoming structure of what happened for the altcoin market back in 2019 through 2020. And we'll show that here in just a second. But as this US dollar currency index is up, we can see that the euro is down here at its support level. So it has not cleared through those yet. We've got a little alarm set in case it does, but we're right there and it has not cleared it yet. Meanwhile, the dollar is at its highest level that we've seen since 2002, which is what I talk about here regarding the euro. And in the next thread is that regarding the euro, we have seen something similar to this before, seemingly eerily similar with how the altcoin market bottomed in 2018 through 2020, which we've compared here on this channel before. And that's where we're at with the euro. We are literally at the actual bottom of this thing. If this structure is going to mean anything at all, we're there on that support level currently. So what have we talked about so far, right? We've talked about the stock market, the Dow Jones Industrial Average. After watching that thing like a hawk, it did end up taking out that lower level. We saw lots of negative price action come once that lower level got taken out. And then as Friday wrapped itself up, it was back testing that level. So nothing clear coming out of the stock market in regards to bullish optimism for the stock market. When it comes to the DXY, it's in 20-year highs, not necessarily anything bullish looking there for assets with a dollar rising so fast. One of the major components of the DXY is the euro, and we can see the euro sitting on support. So it's currently still on its support. It hasn't broken down yet. We saw what happened in this structure before. If the euro were to reverse versus the dollar, logic would say, since the two act inverse to each other, that we would see the DXY come down on a reversal of the euro. So euro hasn't broken yet. Meanwhile, DXY is in 20-year highs. Moving on to talk about crypto things. Over the last year, the altcoin market cap has created a structure that looks very similar to corrective structures after all-time high breaks happen. The top is the current altcoin market cap from 2021 to 2022. The bottom is Bitcoin in 2017, its first correction after setting a new all-time high. We went through this in depth last week here on the YouTube channel. I believe I made 2 videos about this, talking about the structure and how this one back here in 2017 was the one that actually shook me out of my position there on Bitcoin. I thought we were crashing and did not recognize that we were still holding these lows over here, and that we had bounced and then went into an aggressive capitulation back down to the lows over there. And that so far, looking at the structure of how this has worked for the altcoin market, we come up, we set a couple of new highs, we come up, we set a couple of new highs, work our way over, and finally capitulate all the way back down to the lows. Very similar to what we've seen happening over here on the altcoin market so far. And which you can see here when zoomed out. The top is the altcoin market from 2018 to 2022. The bottom is Bitcoin from 2013 through 2017. In which, when Bitcoin had its first major correction after breaking out of its all-time high, this was very similar to the structure that it had. And then it capitulated back down to its lows and then went off and away and continued marching up. For another comparison, Ethereum had a similar correction to Bitcoin's 2017 all-time high correction back in 2016, which lasted most of the year, which I'm pointing to the same thing going on in here for Ethereum back in 2016. So this was not even during the time period of Bitcoin's correction. This was before then, which we can see back here, right? So we'll zoom out on it to get a perspective of what Ethereum was doing during that time right here. Zoom in on it. And what did we have happen here for Ethereum, right? The big run up, big fallback, goes up, one new high, one more high, then capitulation, which is very similar to what Bitcoin did 6 months later, and very similar to what we've seen so far printed over here on the altcoin market. Now, we don't have any bounce out of here to prove that that's what has happened here yet. We can only look to these things and say, hey, these are similar to what we've seen happen before. And these things have happened after breakouts of all-time highs and being the first major corrections. And so without seeing anything flying just yet throughout the weekend, we did get green action, but still nothing's really flying yet and like broken back up above those price levels that we saw everything fall from right here. Like mentioned at the beginning, the market hasn't begun ripping and roaring, so it isn't showing some big reversal that the bottom is in. Also, with the Dow Jones Industrial Average back testing the broken support levels, worries are that it could push down again this week. At the same time, if these market cap corrections remain true to form, there isn't much left in them. And if the Euro USD remains true to form, same goes for it, which could point to a DXY cooling off. So it's quite a mixed bag. In that if the euro is able to hold itself right here, well, we likely wouldn't see a whole lot more coming out of the DXY in regards to the DXY rising very much. And if this is true for the market conditions that we're in right now and that we're completing a capitulative phase in the market, well, we can see right in here on these structures, it just isn't much left in them if it's true. So while those two things of like, hey, if the Euro USD can hold the support, then it looks like the DXY could reverse. And hey, if this altcoin market corrective structure that's happening on top of its all-time high remains true to form of what we've seen happen in Bitcoin before, it's what we've seen happen in Ethereum before, then hey, those don't have much left in them either. However, you also have the stock market over here that took out that low a few days ago, and it still hasn't reclaimed it. So you have a completely mixed bag in here. You have, hey, is the stock market going to reclaim itself, or is the stock market going to go lower, and will the euro reverse? Because we know the trajectory of these things. The euro is heading down. The DXY is heading up. A continuation in those directions is obvious, right? If DXY keeps going up, if Euro USD keeps going down, if stock market keeps going down, then cryptos, based on history and all those elements happening, keep going down as well. So the trick here is saying, can a reversal come in? Are we at a place where reversals can happen? And for the euro, we can see that it is, but we still don't know if it's going to. So quite a mixed bag. Now, moving on to things that happened in the cryptocurrency market last week regarding Luna, regarding UST. I'm not an expert on this thing. I tried to like talk about NFTs earlier this year and just got a complete backlash from people saying, you don't know what you're talking about. So take that with a grain of salt as well when it comes to talking about Luna and UST. I have incredibly limited knowledge, but it certainly caused shockwaves throughout the market with a devastating loss on Luna last week. So last week, there was a devastating hit on Luna and UST. We don't know the complications of this and who took collateral damage from it yet. Were there other treasuries exposed to this? Has LFG sold off all of their Bitcoin reserves, or is there more left? We don't know. pretty much just spent, the weekend looking around on Twitter, like most people probably do who are on Twitter, and trying to get an understanding of, what things are out there right now. And I've seen lots of posts out there of people saying we haven't seen any announcements from any other like projects or treasuries or funds that maybe got impacted by this. And it's true, I haven't seen really anything posted out there on did anybody else get, injured, any major entities get injured by what happened with UST. We haven't seen any announcements, so it's hard to know who got hurt by that thing. And then in addition, has Luna Foundation sold off their Bitcoin reserves, or is there more left? So I've had to spend the weekend researching UST. And so essentially we have different types of stable coins in the cryptocurrency market. One of the ones we're most familiar with is USD Tether. It's been around for a very long time. It's claimed to be a reserve stablecoin, which is backed by reserve assets. Same goes for USDC or USD Circle, also backed by reserve assets. UST is a new stablecoin that really rose within the last 7 to 8 months out of nowhere, really, going from like a year ago being a $100 million stablecoin to being like a $20 billion stablecoin over the course of like 1 year. And just in the last 6 to 7 months, going from 2 billion to like 20 billion or 14 billion, whatever the number is, 18.8 billion. But the difference here is that UST backed itself by volatile assets, by Bitcoin. And I still don't understand the complications of that and how that all impacted what happened with UST and Luna. But the question is, did they sell off the Bitcoin already? We know that it was sent to exchanges. I've looked at all of the different on-chain guys. I'm all pointing to it on which exchange it was sent to, where it was sent. We can see over here on the exchange net position change, which is one of these things we've been looking at. It was just sudden, a quick fly of 50,000 Bitcoin went straight to exchanges. And based on what I've seen from the on-chain guys, that was from Luna. But it is still unknown if they actually sold it on the exchanges or did they just put it on the exchanges. So does that add more additional sell pressure to Bitcoin? We don't know either. So when it comes to additional damage that was caused to any other assets regarding UST and Luna, we don't know. And is the selling done for Bitcoin in regards to the 50,000 Bitcoins that were sent to exchanges? We don't know. We know they were sent to exchanges. We don't know if they've been sold because they haven't made an announcement on whether or not they did or didn't. So that does overhang out there. Another thing out there right now has been about USDT, so Tether, which has not yet regained its peg to the US dollar at $1. When things started hitting the fan for Terra USD or UST, it started with a small slip, then it spun out of control. UST is an algorithmic stablecoin, different from the claimed reserve form of USDT. So we can see that USDT is still not repegged. We can check on it again this morning. We can still see it still is not repegged back to the dollar. It is at 0.999. Now, that is awfully close to $1, but it was merely the slipping out of it from right here that started that trajectory. And we can see we're still not back to where we've been. So we are still below where we've been for a very long time. And I can just put this on here, right? So this dates back over here till June of 2021. You can see we're still underneath here. So Tether is still not repegged. So that's another overhang out there, in which I followed up with kind of what we're talking about. I don't believe reserve stablecoins have the same built-in algorithmic functions that would cause it to spiral like Luna and UST did. It would likely need to be something different to cause the fall. But we see the peg is still not intact, keeping it on radar of concern. Here's an explanation by @MissCryptoMom1. Stablecoins like USDT, USDC, and BUSD are backed by reserves, meaning there is always a matching US dollar reserve in a bank account. Algorithmic stablecoins like UST are not backed by a dollar, but rather by a sister token. So we have a lot of things happening here. The Dow Jones is below the support break from last week. The DXY is in 20-year highs. The euro is on support. The altcoin market and Ethereum with similar correction structures that we've seen before, but we have no coins that are flying as if a reversal is in. And we have Tether that is slightly unpegged from the dollar, and we don't know the fallout from the UST and Luna situation or if the Bitcoin reserves have been spent. Moving on to talking about volumes. Last week, Bitcoin and crypto saw exceptional volume. Bitcoin broke volume records on FTX on 3 out of 5 days. So we saw the most volume in here from the history of FTX 3 days last week. We also saw high volume in some stocks as well. Besides the day shortly after Coinbase's IPO, volume records were set every day last week on their stock price. A lot of stock changing hands, in which we can see that suddenly a ton of volume has come in here for Coinbase. High volume can signal reversals are coming, but it's really once the reversal is obvious and then looking back at volume, does it kind of confirm it? We see the high volume coming in everywhere, just no big buy reversals indicating a reversal is here. So it's a lot of things happening this week. There are highly likely other important variables that I'm not noticing that are important. But for me, DXY, Euro USD, Dow Jones, crypto market cap, UST Luna collateral damage, LFD Bitcoin deployment, USDT peg, and reversal buy volume are the things that I'm looking at. I'm praying for positive action this week. It's been a rough one out there. The factors are so mixed, it creates a blurry image. Lots of negative, some good. Hopefully that clears up. But here we go. Let's see what the week brings us and enjoy the lunar eclipse tonight. So now that the stock market is open, we can see here with the Dow Jones Industrial Average starting the day down 196 points right now, not able to clear through here. So this is one of our negative things that we have. We know that the Dow Jones got very close to a 4.236 Fibonacci extension, not quite getting there. But of course, it's very nerve-wracking being way up here on whether or not this is kind of like the first initial profit take before it's the final reach out and then it's over. But right now, we don't know if it is going to reach out there. All we can see here is that we're still just continuing to break down. And once this level got taken out, ABC's gone. There's nothing very optimistic looking for the stock market right now without some just sudden reversal coming out of here, which brings you back to the DXY, right? If the DXY just keeps marching up and up and up in the trajectory that it's at, which it is parabolic, but it's still marching up, and the euro sitting on support. If the euro takes out support, that's another negative added in there, right? Because that adds more to the DXY, making the dollar even stronger. If the stocks keep slipping, it's another thing towards, macro not good picture. And so those are kind of our not looking so good things right now when it comes to the bigger picture and the macro picture of things, unless if the euro can hold in here to reverse the DXY. The other unknown variables that are of concern is what's happening over here with USDT or Tether, still not pegged back to the dollar. And what can be the fallout that has happened from UST or Terra USD and Luna, and whether or not those Bitcoin reserves have been spent. So those are kind of all the bad things that I see right now, and the worrying things that we need to kind of see reverses on. I want to see reversals on the euro. I want to see reversals on the DXY, and I want to see reversals on the stock market, because the directions they're all going in without reversals don't point to positive for crypto. If a big, strong reversal came in on all of them, those would all be historically good elements for crypto. But if they continue in the directions they're going in, not so much. Not to mention, we know that Bitcoin has broken below its 100-week moving average. Historically, when we're just looking at moving averages only, it's gone back to that 200-week moving average each time. We haven't gotten there yet. I'm going to go ahead and do a couple of other scary things on here real quick just to show them to you, because these are things we have talked about in the past. We've taken a look at this bear market fractal before over here on Bitcoin, and the one that we were following for nearly 6 months in here, and then started deviating away from it, right? But this was the 6-month time period where we nailed it perfectly. And while we have broken down, we know that in previous bear markets for Bitcoin, 85% corrections are the typical norm for how far down Bitcoin does fall. And well, if you were to get down that far, it gets you down about 80%. I see it all the time over there on Twitter that there's never been a time where Bitcoin has gone below its all-time high. And that's not true, because we've pointed to this multiple times, that this Bitcoin super cycle has repeated 3 times. And that if you look at all of this whole pausing period right in here is precisely the same fractal that happened right back in here. And I saw it all throughout 2021 that people were comparing this fractal in here to this one right in here. But I've shown it over and over. And we'll just do this really fast just to say this once again, right? We'll spread it out just kind of like that. But you can see we had our initial fall, we had our retracement, we had our reaccumulation, and then we broke out of here, right? that even in this circumstance right back in here, it certainly did take out that high and it pulled way back down in here. So I'm definitely not in the camp of somebody who believes that Bitcoin can't go below its all-time high because it's never happened before. It certainly has happened before. And so the fact that it's been playing this bear market fractal from its very top, it's on my radar, and how much, weight can you put on this right in here, right? So that's kind of one of the challenging things on the mixed bag portion of all of this, even if you look at Bitcoin, right? Because here's what you could say. You could say, yep, it's all completely dependent on this fractal right in here. Our pause out that's happening right here is about to lead to a further capitulation. Or people are going to say, nope, I'm way more dependent on moving averages because the moving averages have historically been the thing that mattered the absolute most. We know that this happened in here. It did wick below, but 200-day moving average, 200-day moving average, 200-week moving average, 200-week moving average, 200-week moving average with wicks below, but still closing at the 200-week, right? So there's going to be people who say 200-week moving average is the most important thing. Then you're also going to have the people who care about trend lines tremendously, because what else was so interesting about the capitulation that we actually ended up having last week is that you could draw yourself out a nice little channel in here, just like this, and you could see that the extreme excitement and euphoria of laser eyes and diamond hands that took place in the cryptocurrency market happened at the top of the channel. And we can see the extreme ultimate fear happening right here at the bottom of the channel. So you could outline multiple different bullish reasonings on why that's the actual bottom, or lean on a fractal and say, nope, the channel goes, nope, the moving averages go. And then if the moving averages go, right, if you take out that 200-week moving average, you can kind of see what happens in here. You actually have legitimate closes that happen underneath here on the 200-week moving average. So not only do you lose it, but then you start getting something really different than what's happening ever since the beginning of time here in Bitcoin. If you start closing multiple weeks and even months underneath that 200-week moving average, if that truly is the play in here. So again, there's more of your mixed bag on Bitcoin that, there's your bear market fractal. There's it continuing even further. Yet here you are, you have yourself within a perfect parallel channel where you have sentiment extremes happening on both ends. If you were here in 2019, in June of 2019, this was extreme euphoria that everything was returning. We had just come out of capitulation. It was super exciting. I remember at that time, I was really excited too. I remember dancing in the kitchen. I remember singing the song, the Queen song, Don't Stop Me Now, right? That was popular in the XRP community at that time, and it was really exciting. And sentiment was really high right there. Then what do we do? Extreme negative sentiment way down here, right? This is C19. What do we get? Extremely high sentiment. We get laser eyes and diamond hands, and now we've got extremely low sentiment. So we're seeing sentiment swings happen at the same periods within the channels. But if you're going to depend on fractals, fractal's not very optimistic. If you're going to depend on moving averages, you don't have too far to go, but you still have further down to go. And if you're going to depend on channels, well, channels tell you there's no more down to go. So again, more mixed bag things coming out of Bitcoin. And without some type of reversal happening over there in the Euro, USD, the stock market, and the DXY, it gets hard to lean on the fact that, hey, you just have a channel happening in here, right? The positive thing is that we talked about is you do have big volume coming in here, and this is Bitstamps. Let's move over to Coinbase. On Coinbase, you can see we have a very high volume all last week. Every day was 4 out of 5 days were extremely high volume over here on Coinbase, and on FTX, 4 out of 5 days were extremely high volume as well. So high volume, good for reversals, but it's tough over there on Bitcoin. Now, moving on to optimistic things, right? If this structure remains true, the hardest part about trying to find reversals is that the sentiment and the picture of what's going on is always going to be the absolute opposite. And I think really good examples of that would be like during C19, right? Everybody totally panicked, everybody fearful. Of course, people sell the bottoms rather than buying the bottoms, right? Why? Because the picture is so terrible, right? At that time, we didn't know what was coming next, right? We had lockdowns, we had all kinds of crazy stuff. People didn't know if they were going to, get sick, right? And if they did get sick, what was going to happen to them? So the outlook was really, really poor when the bottom came in. There was nothing optimistic down there at the bottom. Then flash forward to what the top of the crypto market looked like back in 2021, right? What was happening during those time periods? Extreme excitement. The Fed, they're never going to be able to get inflation under control. Assets are just going to keep flying to the upside. It's never going to stop. It's always going to be great. We're going to the moon, right? And that's what the top looked like. And so we know that the sentiment and the bigger picture tends to look different than what price action ends up doing at the final moment, right? The picture at the bottom is always going to look really bad. The picture at the top is always going to look really good. And that's kind of the challenge we're facing right now, because the picture out there is not good, right? You got Federal Reserve quantitative tightening, you have interest rate hikes, a rising dollar, a falling stock market. All these things are not good. But you look over here at the market structure, what's happening over here on the collective altcoin market cap when you're excluding Bitcoin and you're excluding Ethereum. And it's what we've seen before. And not only is it what we've seen before, it's what we've seen once you get out into all-time highs on top of these breakouts, right? So there's your mixed bag. If you start, drastically breaking down these lows, well, then you lose that picture altogether. And then just literally everything looks bad. And then, we look at a lot of other altcoins too, right? The whole market, if you took up the percentage of coins that are sitting here in these all-time highs, it's not many of them, right? Most coins are still below their all-time highs, whether it's Stellar Lumens, XRP, Zcash, Bitcoin Cash, IOTA, Litecoin, Cardano, all these major coins way below their all-time highs, right? Again, another element to the mixed bag of what is going on out here. And if I had to say, just from the way I look at it all, I would say most things out there are pretty negative. The only real positive things I see out here happening in this market is what the altcoin market looks like with this corrective capitulative structure happening in here as a collective altcoin market. All the other elements look really negative, but the question is, are those elements going to reverse at the time when this thing reverses? I don't know. It's a hard time out there. And then you have the overhanging stuff of Luna and UST fallout. So it's a weird time in the market right now. It's a tough time in the market right now. And I would say one of the toughest ones out there, and the one that just gut-wrenching to me, because I don't have a read on this from a structural perspective, right? So like if XRP just does what XRP does, in which, like, let's say Bitcoin goes back into a retracement, XRP just does what it always does. It goes with the rest of the market and retraces great. But structurally, having this whole crash, a retrace, reaccumulation, that's typical structures that we see happen in lots of markets. This is what happened in Bitcoin. It's what happened in XRP. I've shown it happening in Ethereum and all kinds of assets out there. In Netflix, once we lost that, this picture gets really blurry over here for XRP from its chart perspective. And you could see it right there. Yesterday's close takes you below the 200-week moving average. That's not pretty. We had two technically damaged things happen on the chart yesterday. One, losing any type of consolidation structure that was playing out that we've seen happen, where it just retraces back to its 618, consolidates, and then eventually breaks on out. Instead, we lose the support and then at the same time lose the 200-week moving average. I couldn't reasonably come on here right now with my knowledge and all the time I've spent staring at charts to say, this thing's ready to just surge to the upside, because I don't see it. And hopefully I'm just missing it, but I don't see it. The only way I could see it happening would just be like on a wave count of like an A, B, C correction coming in here, where you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, A, B, C, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In essence, giving you an A, B, C correction. But again, I don't know if that's reaching. I don't know if that's wanting what I want it to want. The reality is, it lost its support level. It's lost its 200-week moving average. And again, you could pull the same thing you say over there for Bitcoin, right? I mean, if you want to go reaching and you want to say, hey, look, we've got a trend line that's happening here. You've got multiple bounces coming off of this thing right in here. Where did you just land on? You just landed on it once again, right? But is that enough to sit there and say, boom, it's bullish now? Bitcoin did the same thing at the same time, landing at the bottom of a channel on the exact same time period that happened over there with XRP. The euro as well hit that bottoming area at the exact same time all those things happened at. And we had a very capitulative moment for the altcoin market as a whole, with a similar structure to what we've seen Ethereum do and we've seen Bitcoin do in their all-time highs, right? So this is the first major correction of the altcoin market after it's broken out into all-time highs. which was the same thing as Bitcoin down in here. We happen to get all the way back down in here at the same time all of that happens, right? So you got an XRP trend line, you got a Bitcoin channel, you got Euro USD at the lows, you got the altcoin market hitting here, and this structure we've seen in Ethereum and in Bitcoin. All those things are kind of like your confluence things that all happen at the same time. But also, you look over there at the stock market, you look over there at the DXY, the underlying issue of whether or not there's a bunch of Bitcoin out there that are about to get sold by Luna, and then you've got moving averages much lower. You just have a total mixed bag out there. Things that would change this picture would be like a reversal in the stock market, or a reversal in USD, or a reversal in the euro, and a reversal in the DXY. You add those things, then you start saying, whoa, wait a minute, the DXY is now coming down, the euro is bouncing, the stock market's going up. You have a very big picture, and those things can happen, but it certainly hasn't happened yet. And so as we head into this week, I think the big questions are going to be, is there going to be some type of reversal happening here in the euro? Is there some type of reversal happening in the stock market? Have we held ourselves within a parallel channel with an extremity event happening here to hit the bottom, just like we had an extremity event happening to hit the bottom the last time? Or has this fractal grabbed its grip once again, because it was undoubtedly in control? The similarities of this, we pointed at this thing too many times to count. I got sick of looking at it. You guys did too. Has that grabbed its grip once again? The biggest thing missing from this market at this point is any type of retracement, and retracements are most common, but we haven't seen one yet. Not for Bitcoin and not for Ethereum or for the altcoin market as a whole. So heading into this week, I don't think the fingernail biting is done just yet. I wanted to show you all the different things I'm looking at and how conflicting everything is right now from my perspective. And there's, like I mentioned, there's probably other elements that I'm not seeing in here that paint a different picture. But from the perspective that I can paint it in, from the things that I look at, this is how I see it. I see Bitcoin at the bottom of a parallel channel that it has traveled in for nearly 3 years. But I also see that there was a fractal that had gripped hold of it for a very long time. And if it's gripped hold again, not good. I also see that the 200-week moving average is lower than here, which has been a grabbing point throughout history, that eventually we do go visit it after the 100-week has been broken. So you've got that too. Which one do you put more weight on, right? Do you put more weight on it and say that was the extremity of the event and we're done? Or do those things matter more? I also see this. I like seeing this happening over here in the altcoin market, as that's the same thing that we saw happen over there on Bitcoin, and the same over there on Ethereum, which eventually paved way for another ride to the upside. I do see that trend line over there on XRP, but whether or not that trend line is just something I'm wanting to see, or have we touched it for a third time? The thing I do know is we've taken out the support level for what a typical crash, retrace, reaccumulation looks like, which we've seen happen before, in which XRP does retrace back to the 618 retracement, accumulates, and moves on to another leg. That structure got lost in the whole move that happened last week, along with the 200-week moving average. So what are my fingers crossed for? My fingers are crossed that the euro can calm down, so that way people are not flocking to the dollars in panic right now. My hope is that Bitcoin can hold these levels in here, and that the altcoin market can hold these levels in here. But I'm not blind to the things that are happening out here in the stock market as well. So I wish it was a clearer picture, but really the picture I'm trying to paint is it is blurry out there. Lots of negative out there, few positives, few things to hold on to hope with the euro for me and for the structure there with the altcoin market. But until some type of reversal shows up in here, the trend has been the opposite direction on nearly everything. There has to be a reversal, right? Reversals always come in one way or the other. They always end up coming. Question is when? And that's the art to the speculation of trying to guess it all. So we'll see how this week goes this week, guys. Fingers crossed something can change on the data to the positive side, but we have lots of worries out there. So let's hope our buddy Barry Silbert over there knows something we don't know. And onward and upward is the case. But I wanted to start this week by showing you how I see things from my perspective, from a lot of the things that I talk about on my channel all the time when it comes to DXY, the euro, the stock market, XRP, altcoin market, Bitcoin price chart, all those different things combined, how the picture looks from my perspective. And There's other elements out there that people may put more value on. I see people post them all the time. People focus on the housing market. People focus on the Fed, on whether those things have more weight. But these are the things that I look at and that I regularly show on my channel. So we'll keep an eye on them throughout the week as things go. Dow Jones has flipped green, but still has not broken back through the level that it was at last week. So all eyes on that. And over there on Bitcoin for a reversal and a retrace. So catch me over here on Twitter, guys. I'll be posting on here throughout the day. You can follow me at bcbacker. Otherwise, I want to thank you so much for watching my channel. If you could, please like this video and give it a thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe and hit the notification bell so you could be notified of when I create new content and when I go live. As always, this is not investment advice and I am not a financial advisor. But if you ever need a pick-me-up or a little bit of reassurance, just remember that the blockchain backers got your back. Have a good one.